President Muhammadu Buhari's economic agenda comes under scrutiny after the FG shows intention of increase in VAT, and today he says he has no intention of inflicting additional hardship on Nigerians. And the Federal High Court in Port Harcourt says the National Assembly lacks the power to take over the Edo State House of Assembly. Hello everyone and welcome to the program. This is Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Okimbaloye. Let's begin in Edo State, where the Federal High Court sitting in Port Harcourt today ruled that the National Assembly lacks the power to take over the Edo State House of Assembly in the midst of the political crisis rocking the state parliament. In the suit number FHC/PH/CS/15/2019, the court, in its ruling, upheld Governor Godwin Obaseki's proclamation. Delivering the final judgment, Justice J.K. Omotosho ruled that the governor does not have the power to issue a second proclamation after one has been made. The justice insisted that the governor does not take directives from the National Assembly, adding that a proclamation issued by the governor remains valid. He noted that the National Assembly lacks the jurisdiction to take over the Edo State House of Assembly, as doing so will amount to infringing on the right of the governor. The court, in its ruling, further states that NAS, that is the National Assembly, cannot unilaterally declare that a State House of Assembly is unable to perform its legislative functions. It is the duty of the court to make such determination upon the issue if and when properly submitted to it for determination. It is after such determination by the court that a National Assembly can exercise its powers under Section 11, subsection 4. The court went further in its judgment to say that it is not a duty of the National Assembly to interpret the Constitution, that is the executive preserve of the courts. That also that the National Assembly directive to seal off the Edo State House of Assembly is ultra vires. The National Assembly, as it is like the president, ordering the sealing of a state governor's office. It perhaps put some rest on that matter for now. Well, let's check out some other political story we have for you on our political roundup.
Governors of the 19 northern states have adopted the federal government's National Livestock Transformation Plan with a resolution to implement the entire roadmap of the plan in all member states. Chairman of the Northern Governors Forum and the Governor of Plateau State, Simon Lalong, made the announcement at the end of their emergency meeting in Kaduna today, which lasted for several hours.
We need to come up with a common front on how to synergize and draw from the funds available for the program and ensure that we derive maximum benefits for our people.
The Governorship Election Petitions Tribunal sitting in Calabar has delivered judgment on the suit filed by Senator John Owen of the All Progressives Congress, challenging the victory of Senator Ben Ayade as the substantial governor of Cross River State in the March 9th gubernatorial elections, as it seeks for its cancellation and a rerun. The three-man panel led by Justice Josiah Majebi, who delivered the judgment, disclosed that issues of selections, nominations and party flag bearers are mainly pre-election matters, as the tribunal lacks jurisdiction to try such matters. Lagos State lawmakers are worried about the state of environment in Nigeria's commercial city and are taking steps to reverse the ugly trend. They are engaging Lagos residents. The Lagos Parliament had organized constituency meeting with stakeholders with the aim of finding solutions to the environmental challenges in the state.
Embrace attitudinal change and join hands with the government in a renewed commitment to preserve the environment.
The People's Democratic Party in the Southwest region have decided that it must review the conduct of off-season elections in the Southwest with a view to develop a response system that will forestall arrest and rigging plans in future elections, beginning with the next governorship elections in Ondo State in the Southwest region. The decision, among others, is part of a communique issued at the end of a stakeholders meeting of the PDP Southwest region in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, where leaders of the party across the Southwest gathered, having taken serious views of developments in the nation and the region.
wherever you may be, if you are busy, put down what you are doing for a moment. Take a listen to this. This is very important. It might affect how much you spend, how much you have in the bank, how much you have in the pocket, and the quality of the food on your table. So it will be good for you to get a cup of coffee or something and listen to the conversation tonight on the program. Our major conversation is about the economic policies of President Muhammadu Buhari. Let me ask you, how would you assess President Buhari's economic policies? Well, you might have an answer after the program tonight. Okay, let's get to it, everyone. Today, the president says he has no intention of inflicting hardship or additional hardship on Nigerians as he promised to eliminate corruption in the oil and gas sector. The president was speaking to a delegation from the Trade Union Congress led by the national president, Mr. Quadri Olaleye. The president also responded to a request by the group not to increase the price of fuel while promising to sustain the momentum in his second tenure and lift millions of Nigerians out of poverty. He reminded them that the key agenda of the inaugural Federal Executive Council meeting focused on the medium-term expenditure framework, which includes the minimum wage, as he re-echoed a commitment to implementing the new national minimum wage. Let's take a listen to the president on some of the commitment that he's made.
Just yesterday, we have the inaugural Federal Executive Council meeting with the new cabinet. A key agenda item was the medium-term expenditure framework, which included discussions around the new minimum wage. I want to assure you all that the federal government remains committed to paying the new minimum wage. On the fuel prices, I agree with you on the need to eliminate corruption and inefficiencies in the sector. I want to assure you that as an administration, we have no intention of inflicting any additional hardship on Nigerians.
Hold that on one hand. Earlier this week, the federal government says it is set to borrow 1.7 trillion naira to fund the 2020 budget. That's according to the finance minister, budget and national planner, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, was speaking at a meeting on the medium-term expenditure framework. According to Mrs. Ahmed, all the sources of funding for the budget will come from the sale of government property, privatization, proceeds, and from multilateral tied loans. The minister also says that cost of debt servicing is expected to rise from 2.44 trillion naira in 2019 to about 2.45 trillion naira by 2020. Take a listen to her.
There will be new borrowings, and the new borrowing for this year will be 1.7 trillion, and this is 100 trillion or 95 billion up from 1.05 trillion in the year 2019.
A lot of criticism have come that in the life of the first tenure of this government, there's been increase in borrowings. And the government has said the reason why we're borrowing is to fix infrastructure deficit. Well, there will be more borrowing. That is a fact. The government says it will increase VAT, value-added tax on what you buy, from 5% to 7.2%. That is a fact that the government is planning. Let's get to it, everyone. So the president said they will pay minimum wage. On the panel tonight, and joining me from our Abuja studio is an economist and a member of the PDP, Dr. Onanuju, and with him is a political economist and a member of the APC, Mr. Oyalowo. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on the program tonight. Let me begin with you, Dr. Onanuju. How would you read or how would you interpret what the president or the plan of the Buhari government in this second time is? For example, would you say pain will be gain at the end of the day?
Well, what you're saying is a continuation of the previous policy of lack of plan. At a time when across the world, people are actually decreasing taxes. You could see that in the US. so as to allow for some more availability of money in the hands of people which they could spend and spur economic activity. This government wants to undermine investments in the economy, undermine the money available in the hands of the people by taxing them more. It's suggesting increases in taxes, increases in VAT. So this is just like old Rome, which was actually built on plunder and spend. Plunder and spend. And that's the reasons why you've not seen any actual real good team of economic managers to plan the economy for the president. What this is planlessness. The right thing to do, remove the government's sustained distortion in the energy market by allowing the petrol to be free. It should be free to find its level so that when Dangote brings in his own petrol, it will be able to compete with a normal market availability that's actually determined by those who bring in petrol and how much the petrol should be.
But Dr. Onanuju, apologies, please. Apologies. Sorry, let me butt in because of the point that you made. The president said he does not want to increase the price because it will be tantamount to adding more pains to the hardship of Nigerians. Are you suggesting that there should be increase of on price of fuel?
No. The government should stop the distortion because the government's sustained activity in the energy market represents a distortion. It's all corruption. Remove your hands in the petrol business. Dangote is about to bring in his own petrol into the market. Would you still be taking petrol from Dangote and be paying him some subsidy? No. Allow the petrol market to be free so that you don't need to commit this billions and trillions of money in subsidy. Allow it to be free. That's what we're saying. Allow a free competitive economy built around merit. Not this state government managing things. As you can see, there is corruption all over the place. They take money and tell you they're putting it into education, yet the out-of-school children population increases from 10.5 million to 16.8 million, telling you corruption is all over the place. So the only way to curtail that corruption is government to remove its hand in a sustained extortion and disruption of the energy market. Subsidy should be removed. I have been saying this now for the past 6 years. Remove the subsidy. Remove government sustained distortion of the energy market.
Dr. Onanuju, let's bring in Mr. Oyalowo into the fray. Mr. Oyalowo, how would you react to what Dr. Onanuju, the advice Dr. Onanuju is giving to this government?
Honestly, I have had my fill of laughter this evening. You see, a lot of issues and Nigerians are being miseducated and misinformed by roadside economists and all manner of political hacks who just bring in and throw big words and deceive people. And you ask yourself, if you increase VAT from 5% to 7.2%, how significantly will that affect people? Ask yourself again, what are the things that are taxables? The poor necessarily don't suffer in terms of VAT because you don't tax you don't tax gari, you don't tax pepper, you don't tax the small things people. It is people who can afford to go to hotels, to shops, to buy big things that get to pay VAT. But you see, roadside economists who want to make Nigerians believe that it's better to deregulate, in quote, the oil market so that we can buy fuel at higher price and then we should keep VAT low. But they forget to tell Nigerians that 5% VAT is the lowest anywhere in the world. Now, let me quickly use the second largest economy in Africa to buttress my point. VAT in South Africa is 15%, while 1 liter of PMS in South Africa is sold, thank God for these figures coming up. The 1 liter of PMS in South Africa is sold at between, because they sell about 3 different grades, between 250 naira per liter to 270 naira per liter. But he will want us to believe that if you remove fuel price, if you remove government hands from fuel, then overnight, suddenly price of fuel will crash. It is a lie that they have been
All right.
telling Nigerians.
Let me pause
what
this
they
for a
didn't
moment,
do,
Mr.
and
Oyalowo.
Nigerians have not done. Please, Seun, let me finish.
Hold on,
The
because
issue
we need
there
to
is,
go on a break.
if we
Just
have
hold on.
enough refineries
I'll come back to you.
refine our petrol, then we may
I'll come back to
begin
you in a
say,
moment.
okay,
We need to go
deregulate.
on break.
But for-
Just hold on. We'll take a break, everyone. With all of this plan, the argument and the debate over what way to go, we come back and look for a solution to some of these issues. Stay with us, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. I did tell you earlier on that the conversation tonight is about the money in your pocket, the food on your table, and your earnings. How far? The federal government did say that there will be an increase in VAT. There is that plan in the works from 5% to 7.2%. That's the plan of the federal government. And also, President Buhari has said, look, I will not inflict more hardship on Nigerians. So there is probably no plans to increase the price of fuel. But the PDP has come out to say that by increasing or having plans to increase VAT from 5% to 7.2%, is increasing on the burden that Nigerians currently have. Let's get back to the conversation. My partner tonight on the program, an economist and a member of the PDP, Dr. Onanuju, and with him is political economics and a member of the APC, Mr. Oyalowo. Let me quickly come back to you to land on your thoughts, because when the president did say, I will not inflict more hardship on Nigerians, the question a lot of people will say, VAT, value-added tax, is simply what you pay on what you buy. So how are you going to defend that, considering what Dr. Onanuju just said?
I just told you that VAT is the small tax you pay on consumption. How many of the poor people go to Transcorp? How many of them spend money in expensive hotels? How many of them go to expensive shops and high-class places to buy things? I doubt if any of them do that. So if you increase VAT a little, it is not a huge problem. In fact, I would expect that we not just increase VAT, maybe there should be a tax on what you call some of these very expensive goods, maybe champagne and so on. So you call it luxury tax. So, and let me quickly correct another impression. I made a mistake here when I said price of PMS in South Africa is 250. It's actually between 450 naira to 471 naira, depending on the grade. They have 3 grades. So if you are now saying deregulate, and then suddenly price of PMS goes to 500 or 400 or 300 naira, and you are leaving tax at 5%, what sense have you done? So I think the president was right when he says he doesn't want to increase hardship on Nigerians, because by the time you increase, you leave tax at 5%, VAT at 5%, which many people don't pay anyway, and then you remove your hand from fuel, and you allow these guys to do whatever they want to do, and then fair price go to 400 naira, every Nigerian will cry, because that is the one that affects all of us. So for people to sit down here and say, no, deregulate so that they can have their way and do anything, you forget that almost all the fuel that we consume in Nigeria is actually imported. So you will have to make Nigerians to pay international price for
Mr. Oyalowo.
a liter of PMS.
Yeah.
Automatically, you're going to punish the people. So the president is completely correct when he said he will leave price of PMS as it were, but a little bit of increase in VAT, which has not even been approved anyway, it will have to go to National Assembly, and you never can tell what they will say. So it is not like it's a done deal yet. So let us stop hyperventilating on an issue that is still waiting to be debated by the NAS.
All right. Let me quickly go to Dr. Onanuju. Quickly, Dr. Onanuju, in your intervention, look at it. There is a major problem. Every person who is savvy about the economy knows that we have a major problem with revenue. But this government says if it increases tax to 7.2%, it would be making about 2.09 trillion additional revenue. If you say that should not happen, where do you hope that Nigeria can get more revenue?
Thank you. I think our problem has been primarily wrong economic policies. If you notice internationally, the government, Nigeria was not invited to the G7 because Nigeria is seen to be a country that does not plan for economic growth. And the government has undermined democracy, and of course, as you know, the rule of law doesn't exist in the country. That's why we cannot get anybody repatriated here. If the government should change its ways, the borders are so porous. The fuel that we say comes to Nigeria is distributed all over Niger, Chad, and wherever. We are not efficient, and there is a lot of corruption in that thing. We are taking trillions of our money, telling us that you are actually using that thing to subsidize fuel, money that can go into infrastructure and proper capital expenditure. No, we are having that money stolen by politicians. Why don't you remove government-sustained intervention in distorting the fuel markets? That's what we're saying. Remove it and let efficiency of competition show us what the truths are. Then use that money that you're using to actually do that subsidy to improve the lives of the people. Why are we complaining? We're trying to tax everything because we don't have economic growth, because we have had a rush of bad policies.
All right, apologies. Let me bring in an economist, Mr. Johnson Chukwu, who joins us from Lagos, Victoria Island, Lagos. Thank you, Mr. Chukwu. A quick intervention for us. Are you worried? And what is your reaction to some of the government's policy on VAT and the fact that there might not be a removal of subsidy, and the government says we probably are not increasing price of fuel? Your quick intervention, please.
Okay, my intervention will start from the government philosophy. The government philosophy is that it wants to support the poor. The government policy tends to be pro-poor. But unfortunately, the intention of some of those policies are not achievable with the policy combination they have enunciated. Take, for instance, the issue of value-added tax. The value-added tax is consumption tax. So it's difficult to avoid. So basically, anybody, irrespective of your level of income, that consumes some basic necessities of life, we have to pay that tax. And we're increasing that tax from 5% to 7.2%. You might think it is not material, but the key thing you have to look at, what is our per capita income? I have seen one of my panelists there in Abuja who made reference to the per capita, to the price of fuel or the value added tax rate in some African countries. Comparing Nigeria, for instance, South Africa, Nigeria's per capita income is about $2,000. South Africa is about $6,100. So even if VAT rate is 20% in South Africa, an average South African can afford it compared to an average Nigerian given our level of income. Again, on the issue of subsidy, I have advocated repeatedly that the subsidy regime is not pro-poor, or it's not benefiting the poor. Because if you look at it, how many poor people have multiple cars? The poor people are all in public transport. So they are not getting as much benefit of the subsidy as those who have several cars. And again, we are spending an average of 1.2 trillion naira in subsidizing refined petroleum products. The 1.2 trillion naira can complete the Lagos-Ibadan Express Road, build Shagamu Express Road, build the Enugu Express Road, and rebuild the Kaduna-Kano Express Road in a single year, because none of these highways will cost more than 200 billion naira. So I think there's better use for the amount we're spending on subsidy that will benefit the country more.
All right, Mr. Chukwu, I must sincerely thank you for that intervention. Mr. Johnson Chukwu, CEO of Cowrie Assets Company. Thank you so much for talking to us. Let's get probably a final reaction on the program from Mr. Oyalowo, a political economist and a member of the APC. With all of this that you have heard, Mr. Oyalowo, a lot of people are afraid, especially those that have gotten their intervention on the program today. What would you suggest that should be the way to go in gaining public confidence in the policy of the federal government?
That over time, we should begin to plan to deregulate, but that is when we have enough refineries in Nigeria. And I think it is quite pedestrian to begin to talk about G7 and Nigeria not being invited. We've been invited to this administration twice. We're not a member of the G7. We have 54 African countries. If you are invited twice in 4 years, I don't think that makes you a pariah. So those things are pedestrian. You don't expect people that you think have capacity to make this kind of argument. But be that as it may, we should begin to think of deregulation over the time. But for now, a 7.2% VAT is not an issue, because you remember the state government are the ones who take 85% of this VAT, and right now many of them are indebted and they need to pay back their debt. So this will enable them to get more money to pay their salaries, to also be able to pay the new minimum wage, and to begin to pay off their debt. So I don't think it's a big problem. It's just a little bit of increase.
Probably would need to leave
under
it at
normal
that.
circumstances, that will not kill anybody.
Mr. Oyalowo, thank you so much for your intervention. Dr. Onanuju, thank you also for intervening on the matter tonight, and as well as Mr. Johnson Chukwu. But I will leave it on the program tonight. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I'm Sean Wakimale. Bye-bye.